ASMR Sleep Story Jewelry. The Secret of the Ruby Tiara. A Prophecy for the Queen. Chapter 1. Gifts for the Royal Bride. Autumn 1947. The first silvery mists hung over London, and the palace windows burned with anticipation of the great event, the wedding of the young Princess Elizabeth and an officer of His Majesty's Navy, Prince Philip. At that time, young Lilibet, as she was called in the family circle, did not yet know that fate would give her not just jewelry, but the keys to the prophecy hidden in precious stones. Wedding gifts came from all corners of the globe. One of the most impressive gifts were rubies from the people of Burma, an ancient kingdom that has been famous for centuries for its mystical stones, juicy red like dragon's blood. The Burmese believed that each ruby protects against one disease. In their culture, rubies were not just jewels, but amulets capable of granting health, youth, and longevity. Among other gifts, another jewel shone, a tiara from the Nizam of Hyderabad, the ruler of one of the richest Indian principalities. It was this tiara and necklace that Elizabeth personally chose from the collection of the Cartier house. Nizam gave her the opportunity to choose any precious object, and the young princess chose diamonds sparkling like morning ice without hesitation. Later, the queen admits that she felt like a real royal in this jewelry. Chapter 2. Transformation and Symbols. Years have passed. Nizam's tiara has become too difficult to wear over time. The inconvenience of the construction and its old-fashioned style prompted Elizabeth to dismantle it. But diamonds were not forgotten. On the contrary, they became the basis for the creation of a completely new personal jewelry. The Burmese ruby tiara, made by the masters of the House of Gerard, the favorite jewelry house of the English crown. This tiara was not accidental. Its design has been thought out to the smallest detail. In its center is the Tudor rose, which combines the red rose of Lancaster and the white rose of York, symbols of the once warring English dynasties, reconciled by the marriage of Henry VII and Elizabeth of York. Just as their union ended the War of the Roses, the new tiara symbolized unity, stability, and harmony in the new royal age. Chapter 3. 96 Rubies and One Fate. The tiara was encrusted with 96 Burmese rubies, a number believed to have been chosen for the sake of aesthetics. However, in the culture of Burma, this number carried a deep mystical meaning. It was believed that each of these stones protects its owner from a certain disease. 96 stones, 96 charms. Many people did not pay attention to the coincidence at the time, but the queen herself was rumored to know about the significance of these stones. Being a sensible woman, but with a deep reverence for history and culture, she did not reject the legend. Perhaps at some point in her long life, when she was alone with herself, she stared into the crimson glow of rubies and wondered, what if this is really true? When Queen Elizabeth II passed away at the age of 96, the world froze. The legend, which many considered a beautiful fiction, seemed to have taken on flesh. Each ruby is for 1 year spent. Was it a coincidence? Or was fate woven into the precious crown already when the young bride was trying on a gift from the East? Chapter 4. Tiara's Legacy. Tiara did not leave with the queen. Like the monarchy itself, it continued to live. The new queen, Camilla, began to wear this jewelry with dignity and respect. At a banquet in South Korea in 2023, she appeared in it, complementing it with a ruby necklace of Queen Victoria. The symbols of the eras intertwined again. Like an inherited relic, the tiara has gained a second life, bearing not only royal grandeur, but also the memory of someone whose fate seemed to be predicted by the crimson lights of Burmese rubies. Chapter 5. Camilla and the Shadow of Prophecy. When Camilla, the queen consort, touched the velvet case containing the ruby tiara for the first time, she felt a tremor, not from fear, but from a kind of deep responsibility. The jewelry was immaculately polished, each ruby like a tiny heart pulsing with light. She knew that this tiara carried years of royal memory, the shadow of prophecy, and the glory of a woman whose shadow still hung over Buckingham Palace. Camilla stared at the tiara's reflection in the mirror for a long time. Tonuch Aramutre, 96 years old. What if it wasn't just a coincidence? And if fate itself put such codes in the jewelry of monarchs? She wasn't superstitious, but Camille understood the power of symbols. Tiara's power wasn't just in the stones, but in the stories she kept telling. Wearing it to a banquet with Emperor Naruhito of Japan and Empress Masako, Camilla felt the tiara merge with her, as if it spoke the language of diplomacy, antiquity, and royal power. Chapter 6. A Message from Elizabeth. One day, in the archives of Buckingham Palace, during preparations for the Jubilee exhibition dedicated to the life and legacy of Elizabeth II, one of the archivists found an envelope marked, "Personal. Open it after my death. It concerns the tiara." The letter was written in the Queen's neat handwriting. "I know that there are many coincidences in life, but I don't believe that everything is just an accident. When I created this tiara, I thought about peace, about health, about what I should leave behind. I wanted to create not just an ornament, but a symbol of personal and state longevity. 96 rubies is not just a number, it was chosen deliberately. In Burmese culture, it is a protection against 96 diseases, but it is also a hope for 96 years of peace. I hope that my life will be long so that I can witness peace and serve the country as long as I can. If you are reading this letter, it means that my journey is complete. Wear this tiara with honor. Remember, it was created not for the sake of power, but for the sake of service." Chapter 7. The prophecy continues. Several years have passed. Britain was facing new challenges. The old order was crumbling, and the monarchy once again became a symbol of stability in the storm of change. Camilla increasingly appeared in a ruby tiara, especially at meetings related to cultural heritage, healthcare, and diplomacy. People started saying, "The tiara is working again. It carries protection, carries a mission." Perhaps the prophecy continues, now not in years, but in deeds. The next queen will wear it soon, perhaps Catherine, Princess of Wales, or even someone from future generations. And every time the crimson stones shine in the light of the cameras, someone will definitely think, how many more years, how many more destinies do these rubies hold? Do you want me to continue the story as a novel with chapters? Maybe I'll weave mystical elements, intrigue, or modern conflict into the narrative. For example, the conspiracy around the tiara or the secret mission left by the Queen. Or make a screenplay out of it with dialogues and scenes. Chapter 8. A Shadow of an Old Prediction. Buckingham Palace. Spring 2025. In the library, hidden from the eyes of tourists and guests, Dr. Eleanor Hunt, a historian and an expert on artifacts from the Royal Collection, worked on the ancient archives. Recently, the Royal Archives commissioned her to catalog jewelry stored outside of public access. And among them is one strange find. It was an old leather-bound diary with notes in the Burmese language, dated to the end of the 19th century. It once belonged to a court astrologer from Mandalay, the capital of Royal Burma. On one of the pages, Eleanor found a blood-curdling entry. If the stones are laid out in the number 96, they protect not only the flesh, but also the throne. However, if the last stone is cracked, it is a sign of a fall and a great turn. She immediately remembered the ruby tiara. Chapter 9. Crack. On the same day, during the preparation of jewelry for the diplomatic visit, the tiara was taken out of storage. The jewel keeper, Mr. Baines, a man with an impeccable eye, noticed something was amiss. One of the rubies, the central one above the Tudor rose, had a barely noticeable crack, as if from internal pressure. No falls or bumps were recorded. The temperature conditions were observed. It was as if the gem itself had cracked from the inside. Camille was informed about this right away. She examined the tiara in silence. She took a deep breath and she said, "Don't try to hide her. I'll put it on. Let them see. We are not afraid of prophecy. We form them." Chapter 10. Camilla and the Blood of the Rose. Camilla appeared in a Burmese tiara at a reception in Windsor, where the UN delegation was received. The red rubies glittered, but the cracked stone glittered especially brightly. Some journalists remarked, "Tiara has a new trick of the light." The next morning, the newspapers wrote, "The Queen does not hide the weakness of the tiara, and this shows strength." But there was a stir behind the scenes of the royal court. The Privy Council, created under Queen Victoria to monitor symbols of power, has met for the first time in decades. Among the documents it was stated, a crack in the royal amulet is a sign of a close ordeal, not necessarily tragic, but crucial. Chapter 11. Legacy and Trial. Meanwhile, Catherine, Princess of Wales, has begun preparations for her first official visit to India on behalf of the crown. She had long been interested in the history of jewelry, especially those with colonial roots. She knew that the legacy of three eras, Elizabeth, Camilla, and her own, would soon be on her. "Mom, is it possible to carry a prophecy?" she asked Camille before the flight. Camille smiled. "You can, if you're ready to rewrite it." Chapter 12. Ruby of the Future. Princess Catherine arrived in India wearing a ruby tiara. She gave a historic speech at a reception in Mumbai. This decoration was created when the old world was just beginning to change. It's not just a symbol of power, it's a symbol that even empires can learn. Today, we are not crowns, we are partners, and this decoration, created from the gift of nations, reminds us that strength lies in memory and respect. At that moment, the camera noticed the cracked ruby was gone. In its place was a new one, slightly darker, slightly larger. It later turned out that the old stone had fallen out on its own and had been replaced by Gerard craftsmen the day before the visit. But one oddity remained. No one gave such an order. Chapter 13. The Song of Rubies. In the archive, Eleanor Hunt made the last entry. Every generation leaves its mark on the tiara. Every crack is like a wrinkle of time, and each replacement is not the end, but a renewal of the prophecy. Perhaps rubies don't tell fortunes, and fate requires rubies to tell its story. And somewhere far away in Mandalay, an old master stone cutter, looking up at the night sky, whispered, She's chosen the worthy ones again. Do you want me to turn this story into a novel with chapters, dialogues, and scenes, or create an alternative version with magical realism or a mystical thriller? Chapter 14. Circle 96, Secret Society. After Catherine's public visit to India, the appearance of a new ruby in the tiara aroused the interest not only of historians and journalists, but also of a secret group that has been observing the magical symbols of power in Europe for centuries. The society called itself Circle 96. It consisted of descendants of Burmese astrologers, British Freemasons, jewelers, and keepers of the royal archives. In their legends, rubies were not just protectors of health. They were a vessel of will, absorbing the energy of the owner, thoughts, actions, fears, and hopes. According to legend, if you replace a ruby in a tiara without magically cleaning it, you can accidentally transfer the shadow of the previous ruler to the next one. And on the very day Catherine returned from India, a mirror rang in her private chambers. For no reason. The crystal in the jewelry magnifier cracked. The portrait of Elizabeth, which was standing on the chest of drawers, fell. Chapter 15. Broken Code. Dr. Eleanor Hunt, after seeing the pictures of the new tiara from the banquets, noticed something strange. The new ruby, placed in the center, had a different cut. Not in the Gerard style, and not in the tradition of the British school. She found one of the oldest catalogues of rubies brought to Britain. Among them is a ruby with a closed spiral symbol, which was considered a security-type artifact, missing from the collection back in 1914. And it is this symbol that has now appeared in the center of the tiara. So he came back on his own? Or was it returned? What is it? She whispered. She sent an official request to Gerard, but there was no response. However, at night, she received a call from a man who identified himself only as Keeper 96. He didn't give a name, just said, "You have come too close to the ruby truth. If you want to save the queen, you will need to read the arrangement of shadows." We left him in Cambridge, in the library, in the section where books are not catalogued. Chapter 16. Shifting Shadows. The book Hunt found was enclosed in a black box with silver clasps. On the cover is a coat of arms with a Tudor rose, through which a Burmese snake passed. She opened it and read, "When the crown takes rubies as blood, each of them holds not a disease, but a sin. 96 stones, 96 features. If the owner does not purify the stone, he will inherit them." That's exactly what happened. Catherine, unaware that the stone had been replaced, let in some of the sinful shadows of the past. Chapter 17. The Whispering Tiara. In the following weeks, Princess Catherine began to experience strange dreams. She was being chased by a woman in a crimson robe, with her face covered by a veil. She was standing at the altar on which the central ruby rested. Don't give up on the old pain. Accept it and rewrite it. In the morning, Catherine felt more and more how her perception of the world was changing. She began to speak with quotes from the personal diaries of Queens Elizabeth I, Victoria, and even Anne Boleyn. But she never read them. When her personal assistant told her this, Catherine locked herself in a room with a tiara, and for the first time she began to cry. "What do you want to tell me?" Then the stone shone, and for the first time in modern history, the tiara changed shape right before our eyes. The Tudor rose slowly opened, and a new cut appeared in her heart. in the form of 3 petals symbolizing peace, continuity, and repentance. Chapter 19. The Last Stone. There was only one ruby left, whose fate was unknown. Stone number 96. According to the old Burmese map, it was lost even before the gift was sent to Elizabeth. But now archivists have found it in an antique ring kept in the collection of Queen Victoria. Perhaps it is this last stone that should bring the prophecy back to completion, or maybe start a new one. Chapter 20. Shadow of the East. At the same time, far from London, in the city of Mandalay, in the heart of former Burma, now Myanmar, a young historian and monk named Than Shui discovered a legend in an ancient monastery archive that had long been considered lost. It was called Blood of the Ruby Tree. According to this chronicle, when creating a wedding gift for a British princess, the supreme astrologer of the Burmese court insisted that the last ruby, the 96th, not be sent to England. He was too saturated with the spirit of the East. Instead, he was immured in an altar at the top of Mount Popa, an ancient volcano revered as the home of gnats, spirits. And now, almost a century later, the base of the volcano began to glow strangely in the night. People claimed that there were whispers in old Burman in the temple, which no one utters. Than Shui knew that this was the awakening of a ruby, separated from its royal blood. He felt that the West had touched the magic of the East again, and the balance was broken. He sent a letter to Buckingham Palace, a handwritten letter on palm leaves in a language that only native speakers of the ancient astrological dialect could understand. Chapter 21. The stone is timeless. The letter fell into the hands of Queen Camilla's assistant. The text had been translated, but the most important thing was not in the content, but in the attached miniature plate, which was engraved with the same symbol that now shone in the center of Catherine's Burmese tiara, a spiral in a petal. Catherine insisted on an immediate expedition. Together with Dr. Eleanor Hunt and a couple of trusted guards, she traveled to Burma under the guise of a private pilgrimage. They had to reach the top of Mount Popa, but already at the foot they were met by monks, as if they knew that she was coming. They were led up secret steps to the altar sanctuary, where the very last ruby lay in the center of the room, surrounded by frescoes with roses and snakes. He was encased in an obsidian sphere. The monks were silent. One of them, an old man with eyes full of tears, spoke in English. "Your queens wore them without knowing, but you brought a voice." The tiara opened. This means that the prophecy is in action. This stone will not complete the circle. He'll start a new one. Chapter 22. The return of 96 Catherine did not sleep on the way back. She held the stone in her palms, feeling it pulsate like a heart. She had dreams in which Elizabeth II whispered, "Don't be afraid to be another queen. Just be new." In London, under cover of night, Catherine handed Ruby Garrard, but with a new condition. It will not be inserted into the tiara. It will be the beginning of a new line. She ordered the production of a rose ring, a symbol of a new era, but not for herself. In a month, it will be presented to her daughter, Princess Charlotte. Chapter 23. The Ruby Dynasty. Little Charlotte, at her age, already possessed amazing intuition. When they put the ring on her, she said, "It was singing. I could hear it talking. It knows about Grandma." And at that moment, in the hall of Buckingham Palace, the tiara stored in a showcase underguard, flashed red as if welcoming a new century.